Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how are you doing today?
Good. I've been out driving a bit on these wicked streets, and take it easy out there. First day snowfall, and man, I was following this vehicle this morning, and it was fishtailing just endlessly.
Yeah,
I didn't even want to go beside him because I thought he'd
no
fishtail right in.
kidding.
Slow down. Like you just take when you're going to accelerate, just take your foot off the brake if you're in an automatic, and the gas will push your car forward, and then just ease on that gas. Don't crank it. Anyway, that's my advice. And give yourself plenty of space between vehicles and plenty of space to slow down at intersections.
Lessons to be relearned every October.
Indeed. Yeah. And I need to relearn them as much as anyone. I have not a perfect record of driving on ice myself. So
The footing was pretty good, but the roads, you got melting and then freezing, right?
yeah.
I went for my walk this morning, 6K, and one time I slipped was on the bridge. I walked across the crossway on the Ray Gibbon Bridge just on the sidewalk there, and took a little tiny skid there, and otherwise it was crunchy underfoot, but good. It was a little cold, but it was, the footing was no concern.
Excellent. You're keeping up your
Every
daily
day.
walk habit. Bruce, we got a little news. Of course, the news came out yesterday. We're responding to actually a number of little pieces of news. The one huge one, Connor McDavid being out 1 to 2 weeks. There's also a weird kind of, as much as anything else in the internet controversy about what an interview Evander Kane gave to Scott Hope on the weekend, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Sam Gagner signing, and we'll try to dig in a little bit about how the Oilers might react and do with McDavid out for 1 to 2 weeks, as has been reported. It looked like something to do with either his ribs or his hip or something in that midsection area of the body, to me, from where he was feeling and where they were looking at, kind of. So
Above the hip, in the lower back, but on the side. I believe that's the area where the oblique is. That's one speculation I heard, and 1 to 2 weeks is pretty standard fare for an oblique strain, so it's consistent. But all I know is that he got checked very hard by Josh Morrissey. I saw the replay, and I do think he was already nursing something, but Morrissey came down, took him down pretty hard, and what would have been probably 4 or 6 minutes and penalties in the first 2 periods of the game was, of course, nothing at that time in the third period of a tie game, but it should have been a penalty.
was it in the third
whatever.
that he got hit like that?
Well, I believe so, because they showed that,
Okay.
he was going in the right direction for it to be the third. It could have been the first, I guess. It was Morrissey anyway, and it was I won't say aggressive, but he definitely impeded his progress, which when you see the penalties that the Nuge in particular got in that game,
Yeah.
you wonder what the standard is or if there even is one sometimes. But
same old, eh?
yeah.
So McDavid outbursts, they've got still 3 pretty good centers: Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Ryan McLeod. Right now, at even strength, Draisaitl has been crushing it. He's creating scoring chances at a high rate, and his defensive play at even strength has been, I scolded him for an overtime mistake. We both did in the last game against the Jets. I was none too happy, but overall, Draisaitl's been a solid defensive center as well so far this year at even strength. Nuge is off to a good start between center and wing, and McLeod has been a bit underwhelming, both on the attack and especially on the attack, somewhat defensively. He's got to crank it up. Of course, he was injured all preseason, so we have to factor that in.
Yes, we do.
Bruce, in terms of what do you? I guess if there's top lines right now, I guess I'd be going with Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman, Fogle, Holloway, and I'd go with
Kane?
I'd go with Connor Brown.
Yeah.
I think Connor Brown has actually been, by the way we're measuring the game, he's been the worst Oilers forward. He's hardly created anything on the attack. He has not been that great defensively. But I just have some belief. I think this player is I think if you just give him a boost here, I think it's much more likely that he's going to crank it up than Evander Kane is. Frankly, I just don't see it with Kane. I think that he's got. I don't think this is confidence or a drought. I'm thinking this. If he's going to come around, it's going to take quite a while for him to get his hands back, and because that's what I'm not seeing is his dexterity with the puck or his ability to make difficult plays under pressure. I don't think that comes back game to game. I think what we're seeing is what we saw last year after he came back. And until I see otherwise, Bruce, I'm just going to go, this is Evander Kane. But I think Connor Brown could step up and perform well in the top six. He's shaking rust off, but I think he's able to make good plays with the puck, and he's getting close. So that's what I'd do. What about you?
Yeah, I do think this is the opportunity and maybe the time to move Dylan Holloway up the lineup. I know there's lots of experts out there on Oilers Twitter have been screaming for it since the beginning of the season, but in truth, he's played well. And some of the guys that would be deemed as competition have not been playing particularly well. And now there's an opening on the top six. So my personal temptation would be to give him a look in one of those positions, presumably left wing. To me, it's pretty clear they'll build two lines around, one around Draisaitl, the other around Nugent Hopkins. And normally one of those guys plays center and one plays wing, but normally McDavid is there and now he's not. So they'll use them both at center on their own lines, I would suspect. And it's just a matter of mixing and matching wingers to go in there with those guys.
I'd love to, and I've been pushing for this for some time. I'd like to see a checking line at this point of McLeod, Janmark, and Ryan. I think they could be really effective. Yep, Derek Ryan has been grossly underused so far this year. He was super solid winger in the playoffs. He's a super smart player, great defensive player. And that would leave Kane and Erne as the fourth line, which you think, oh, that's unacceptable, you know, for Kane and the team and everyone's expectations. But with bumping Kane up to the top power play unit, and, you know, as long as they use the fourth line of him and Erne, I think that would be, he's going to get his chance to score on the power play. And then just at even strength, Holloway's outplayed him. It's not close. And he deserves to be ahead of him. Fogle deserves to be ahead of him. Hyman does. And does Brown? I mean, you could go with Kane if you want over Brown. There's an argument for that. But I would go with Brown over Kane on that and put Kane on the fourth line. Thoughts?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, I know.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
There's internal pressures, and Kane has already kind of made his opinion clear, and he, like Brown, I mean, he's showing signs of rust as well, and they're both coming off of, you know, injury-plagued seasons, let's put it that way. And Kane has, you know, the Oilers need offense, and Kane is a proven 30-goal scorer, and Connor Brown is a 20-goal scorer. You know, but frankly, there's probably room for both of them in the top six, but there's different ways to play it. And I'm not sure the delineation top to bottom six is going to be quite so strong either, although I guess if Ryan McLeod is your 3C, then you're probably not going to get a ton of scoring out of your third line, which has been the experience so far. But
you know, I if they go with Kane or Brown, it doesn't really, like, I don't have that strong a feeling about it. I do have a strong feeling about Holloway moving up, though. They need, especially without McDavid's speed, they need someone who can fly in getting top 6 minutes, and that's the only one there who flies is Dylan Holloway. Yeah. Fogel's a fast player, but he doesn't fly like Holloway does. So anyway, we'll see what happens. That's what I'd like to see. So the other interesting news is Kane. He's moving up to the top power play unit. Hyman's going to play on the side.
Net front for Holloway, bumper for Kane. Was my understanding. For Hyman.
Oh, Kane.
Net front for Hyman. Kane in the bumper. Nuge in the left circle, Draisaitl in the right circle, and Bouchard, of course.
That's not a bad formation.
I mean, it's basically what they are now, although McDavid doesn't play bumper. McDavid plays skate around like crazy and confuse the other team. which I remember us talking about that in the Cult of Hockey here podcast maybe 3 years ago, saying the Oilers power play needs to do is get McDavid moving. They were too stationary, and then they started moving, and then they started scoring like crazy.
Well, it's just
So I think
another
it's because
example.
obviously the coaches were listening to us again.
Bruce, we could just, it's such a long list that they have
Mm.
stolen from us without any credit. That it's like, the zone defense.
Uh,
All summer long railing on about it, I was. And
Yeah,
finally
well,
they take me up on it.
yeah, let's take credit for that when it starts working, shall we?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a very
The
good
power
idea.
play is been working pretty good. But
I think the zone defense has been working. It's just their neutral zone stuff that hasn't been working. Their neutral zone stuff where they've been allowing goals off the rush,
Yeah.
not so much off the cycle. It's the rush that's killing them again and again and again. Okay, so there's this controversy with Evander Kane right now. So it's between periods. Yeah, I think in the first period he played about 3 minutes. Probably in the second period, not much more. But he got in a fight with Brendan Dillon of the Winnipeg Jets. And Scott Oak asks him, you got in a fight with your former teammate. Was this a way for you to get yourself going? Was the question. And Kane's answer was, well, I didn't play much in the first period. I think I didn't play much. And so then I thought I might as well get in a fight and sit 7 minutes in the penalty box. I think that was his answer.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, close enough. So it's kind of when I first heard it, my initial reaction was, Bruce, my initial honest reaction was, did he just complain about his ice time? That's what I thought. But Bruce, that is mind reading. That is, I imagine that. I really don't know what he was saying, honestly. And so that's why I don't know if we commented on it after the game. I don't think we did. It seemed like it might be some kind of cryptic thing, but who knows? He's a highly, whatever else you want to say about Evander Kane, he is highly intelligent. And he's got he thinks his own thoughts. He's got his own mind. And if you're sitting there on your couch and thinking, oh, I know for sure what Evander Kane's thinking and doing, I think you're kidding yourself. And then, but what's happened since then is this has escalated on the internet into internal dissension on the Oilers, leading to problems. And so anyway, this came up today.
Must be 2 days off between games, David.
This came up today at the Oilers press conference. And let's just go. I'll first go with Jay Woodcroft's response. Now, we don't do this often, so this is Ryan Rashog. He's asking Jay Woodcroft the question about this between periods interview with Scott Oak and Evander Kane, and I've missed the first few words of it, but here is Jay Woodcroft's answer. Now, where's my cursor? There we go.
An interview at intermission last game, and he said, I didn't play much in the period, so I thought I'd go out and get in a scrap and sit in the box. Some view that as a guy complaining about ice time. I don't necessarily, but
I see that as a positive. I saw somebody that was frustrated with the way the first two periods went in terms of the amount of penalties taken. If you look at that first two periods, I think both teams took five penalties each that led to power play. So that's 20 out of the 40 minutes. As soon as you scrape off half of the available game in terms of rhythm and stuff, you're not getting into a rhythm. So like I said, I saw some positives in his game as the game wore on. As I said, he got physical, he got in a fight. I thought the team responded to some good things, and I don't see that as a negative at all. I see it as someone who's passionate and wants to get into a rhythm and wants to play.
Jay, what have you seen?
Okay, now, Bruce, that's Woodcroft's response. Let's just talk about it first. Doesn't sound like the coach, at least, took it as a shot at him in any way. No. Or if he did, he doesn't give a crap about it. Anyway, it looks like he read it as Kane just not liking the ice time because of all the penalties and wanting to get involved in the game and doing so, which is, the one thing Jay Woodcroft has that all the mind readers and people who think they know what Evander Kane says, that Jay Woodcroft has that they don't have, is he has the ability to go talk to Evander Kane in private if he thinks there's been something said and deal with it. Maybe that happened. Maybe there was no issue. Maybe there was an issue, or maybe it's as Woodcroft says, like this is nothing. This is just a guy just stating the obvious and wanting to get in the game and doing so.
Yeah, well, I was wondering why they were even interviewing Kane at that point, because he hadn't, he wasn't exactly a central player in the action on Saturday. But one thing you can count on him doing is speaking his mind, and the second thing you can count on him doing is making a smart-ass comment at some point. And that's just the way he is, know. And you can either accept that or you can get mad about it if you want. But I don't think it's going to change him. And to me, it was just kind of a smart aleck comment, because there was a microphone in front of him and they asked him a question. I mean,
all right, let's go now.
I'm not worried about it, but if you on Oilers Twitter want to get worried about it, be my guest. Fill your boots.
Here's so now we'll go back to the audio. Bruce will roll audio, and I don't know how this is working out, but
sounded good at this end.
All right. Well, here's Evander Kane, again, Rashog, following up, as a good reporter should do. Mm-hmm. He's asked the coach, and now he has a chance to talk to the player, and he's asking the exact same question. This is excellent work. This is excellent, like being fair to Evander Kane, and asking him the question, giving him every chance to respond. Excellent work, Ryan Rashog. Here we go.
For the next game. You did an interview the other night that lots of people ended up talking about. Didn't get much ice time in the first period, so he went out and found a fight. Some view that as a guy complaining about ice time. How did you meet it?
Well, it's easy. It's really easy to view that complaining about ice time when they don't clip the question and they just clip my answer, right? So like a lot of the times, I've talked about the media. There's always a lack in context, and that was a great example of something being taken, a quote from me, without even there being a question involved. So people can take it as they may. And to be honest, even if you just look at the question or the answer, I just laid out the facts. I did play 3 minutes that period. I did get into a fight, and I did sit in the box for 8 minutes. So I was just laying out the facts.
Asking, you're going to get some more ice time.
All right. So, you know what? His complaint about the media is excellent. And one of the things we're finding in this video age, Bruce, is we will see clips of people talking on the internet. Everyone I get fooled. Yep. I'm not going to speak for you. I get fooled. It is so easy to get fooled because something has been taken out of context. Bruce, it is one of the biggest problems of our public life right now is people. I heard it on the internet. I heard him say that with his own words. When it's been taken out of context, they don't add in something else. They don't add in the question, or they don't add in something else the person said to fully explain themselves. And so anytime you hear something on the internet, a clip, try to hear the question, try to get the full context before you get on the social media yourself and react. And it's not always easy to do so. But Kane's overall, just in terms of critique of the media, is fair. And I don't know. I think your interpretation is right. He was a smart aleck in that answer to Oak. He's a smart aleck in his answer to Rashog on a certain level. Although Kane himself, I think, he has not led a perfect life. But in terms of the media covering Evander Kane, I think he's got some fair things to complain about. He has been he's had some hard things said about him, and he hasn't always had the chance to respond in the same article and have his side. So anyway, there we are. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I've done some interviews myself over the years with, newspaper reporters and so on, where you have a 15-minute interview and then they pick out 1 or 2 quotes out of it and put it in the article they're writing in the paper, typically about astronomy, is my experience. And often the chosen quotes are not exactly core to what I thought I said to them. And it just is, it's sort of a random chosen quote, and it's very easy to pick something, put it out of context, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over what Evander Kane said in any event, because as mentioned, that's just part of his persona. He's a brash guy. He's in your face. He's in the opponent's face. I mean, hopefully Oilers fans appreciate that aspect of him. And
he's the most he presents as the most self-confident Oiler.
very.
He has a strong sense of himself, who he is, what he's done in life. What does that mean? Oh, the seven.
We're going to Game 7.
Yeah.
And the San Jose fans said, "Look, he's celebrating. They got 7 goals in the series. What a selfish player! He's not even thinking about the team." And you read his lips, and he's saying, "Game 7, baby."
You know what? I don't know how it
Typical.
plays. I don't know how his personality plays out in his private life. I don't.
Or in the room, David, that fractured, divided Oilers dressing room right now.
But I think people don't do the mind reading thing. You just look silly every single time. That's what I say to people. Don't do it. Don't do it to me. Don't do it to Bruce. Don't do it to Evander Kane. Don't do it to anyone. You can't read their minds. If you have a question, ask them.
Jay Woodcroft, on the other hand, has gone out of his way to hold the kids back now, though, because we can read his mind and we know exactly what's going on in there.
Well, we can tell from actions with the coach what they're doing. But yeah, we do not know what Jay Woodcroft is thinking either. And we can go by what he says. So, but you know what? And again, I don't know how anything with Kane, his personality plays out in his life, but I know how it plays out on the ice. And it is a crucial aspect of how he plays hockey. And it is huge for the Oilers. Why? Which is why, actually, if he can come back, it would be so huge for the Edmonton Oilers. Because that combination of ferocity, intimidation, arrogance, self-confidence, self-belief, and if you mix that with skill, that is an ingredient that you need on a Stanley Cup winning team. And Kane might not be able to bring so much skill as he's brought in the past, but he's still bringing that physical element. Yes. He's still bringing his hitting and his fighting and his intimidating. And if he can find a role on the team just doing that in the third line capacity, let's say, I'm okay with that. I think that's a player who helps you win. Now he's got to, and if he starts making, I think the hands are going to come as the season goes on a bit. So I think he's still going to make a valuable contribution to the Oilers. Now, what we're going to hear all year long is, well, he's a $5 million a year player. He's not living up to that. That's a moot point on a certain level. I mean, a terrible injury happened that nobody anticipated. An absolutely ghastly, horrible thing happened to Evander Kane in a hockey game where he got his arm slit by a skate. He's not the same player after that. It was horrible. But
still grosses me out.
I hear you. I don't even like talking about it. but so he's not going to be the player he was before that injury, probably, but he can still be a player who helps you win. Yeah. And then his salary cap, his cap hit is that's a different issue. Yeah. And if he helps this team win, I'm cool with Evander Kane on the Edmonton Oilers for this season at least, because there's no trading him or moving him or anything like so.
Well, if I'm the coach, because I'm such a great mind reader myself, I'm assuming this is what Jay Woodcroft is thinking, but I could be wrong. I'd be playing the hell out of Evander Kane's next little while, because I think the gauntlet has kind of been dropped. And if I'm the coach, I'm going to that guy and I'm saying, you show me. I'm going to give you all the chance in the world. You show me. You got dropped down a little bit for a reason. I'm sure it was a penalty-filled game, but your performance wasn't up to it. So raise your game. We give you a chance. You want to keep the chance, play better.
So that's exactly what I said I wouldn't do. But you know what? You convinced me, Bruce. I changed my opinion. I think that your psychology, that's the correct psychology, probably. What have they got to lose on a certain level? It's Connor Brown or Evander Kane.
Well, I got 3 more years of Evander Kane to lose.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to lose the player at the same time, but now, I mean, presumably they wouldn't lose all of the player, but if they were to stick him on the fourth line now during this time that the team is, needing all hands on deck, I don't see that as likely to land very well.
Wise words. I agree with you. Yeah. You convinced me. it's see what he's got, and
Put him on power play. I mean, you got a spot there.
Put him on the top power play. Put him on the second line or the third line, first line. Draisaitl or Nugent, see what he's got, and Brown can be on the checking line. That works too. So, yeah, why not? It's not like they've got great solutions for that. As long as Holloway's in the top 6, I'm not going to complain about who the last member of that unit is. I would not like to see though Brown and Kane with Nuge. I just don't see that working. They've got to get that speed up at the top of the lineup. So that's what I'm hoping to see.
Well, they already played. They started the season with McDavid, those two, and then they both wound up playing with McLeod, same two. Maybe it's time to put them on different lines because obviously they're not clicking together. So
we may well see that. We may see Brown and Kane elevated to the top 6 with Foegele and Hyman. That would probably be the safest bet, actually.
You could be Holloway and Hyman, and you could put Foegele, McLeod, Janmark. That would be a pretty fine checking line, in my opinion. But
yeah, I'm actually
Ryan.
So I'm actually kind of intrigued to see how the Oilers respond here to losing McDavid. I mean, I don't want to ever see Connor McDavid get hurt or get injured or be out of the games. It's the last thing I want to see. Now that it's happened, though, I'm just so relieved that it's not 2 months or 3 months. It's 1 or 2 weeks, it sounds like. So that's my first thought. Like, he was clearly hurt. So my first thought is, okay, I don't want to see that, but I'm so glad. But my second thought is, this is intriguing. This is really interesting to see. This is a team that absolutely needs to dedicate itself to defensive hockey. They're working on new systems. I think they've been playing the zone okay in their own zone, but their neutral zone trap has not been working. They've been too high up. Their defensemen have been too high up on the puck in the neutral zone and getting beat on long passes repeatedly, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
This is the major problem, is these defensemen getting whipped by fast forwards, cutting in behind them, taking passes. And Evan Bouchard's popping in my head right now. But it's not just been Evan Bouchard. It's been Ekholm. It's been other players, Kulak, too high up. So I'm just, okay, you don't have Connor McDavid. You're not going to score 5 goals. You've got to win a 2-1 game against the Minnesota Wild. Can you win a 2-1 game? Can you play that game? Can you dedicate yourself to that? You don't look convinced that they're going to do that. And you shouldn't be convinced.
I'm not.
But I'm intrigued by that idea that maybe this will spur them on to do it.
Well, McDavid missed 6 games in 2019-20. This was in February, and the Oilers were in the thick of a playoff hunt. What they couldn't afford was a 6-game losing streak because McDavid was out. They didn't have to win every game. But what they did do is they went 3-2-1 for 7 points in 6 games. It's sort of, treading water in the Bettman standings of the NHL. But tread water they did. And the big thing that happened there was, one thing, the penalty kill came together and didn't allow a power play goal for 6 games. The Oilers, they won 3 games, and they were 5-3, 4-3, 4-3. Same kind of scores they usually win by, where they get to 4 and the other guys don't. And even without McDavid, they had the capability of putting a 4 spot on the board. And then in the other games, 3 other games, it was like they lost 3-1 and 2-1 in shootout or overtime, I think it was, but they did tighten up defensively. The other thing that happened was in McDavid's absence, the Oilers have a pretty good second fiddle that they can put out there to be, the game started and there's Leon Draisaitl, big Leon Draisaitl playing center on the first line. And you know what? He looked totally at home in that role. He's probably better than the best player on 25 other NHL teams conservatively. So you don't have them together anymore, obviously, with McDavid out. But Draisaitl as your 1C, that's not the worst possible scenario. And he went out and scored 12 points out of the 18 goals that the Oilers scored in those 6 games. He raised his game. And frankly, David, he won the Hart Trophy in that 6-game span where the Oilers didn't have McDavid. And people were saying, well, Draisaitl's only pumping in the points because he's playing with McDavid. Took a step back and went, holy crap, look at that. And he was the 3 games they won, he was the first star in all 3 games. So he hugely raised his, I mean, he was already playing great, but he matched, stepped up to the challenge, and he was a team leader in every way you could hope for. And so obviously that's what we're hoping for again in the current scenario.
All right, there's one other piece of news, Sam Gagner. 3rd time with the Oilers, is that correct? 3rd time? It's not 4th, is it?
3rd time in the organization, yes.
Yeah,
Although he's not with the Oilers just yet.
3rd time in the organization. He signed a year-long minor league contract, correct? So that's interesting. I mean, he's coming off some major surgeries on his hips, I understand. He is not a young player anymore. He's been slowing down a few years, but his father is close to Jeff Jackson, extremely close. They were business partners in the
Sam himself
agency.
is close.
And I just think, if nothing else, this is Sam easing into a coaching job and an organizational job. He's going to not just be a player down there, but he's going to be working with the players. And as insurance, like an insurance player, in theory for the NHL, if he shows he's up to it at the AHL level. I mean, Adam Erne has not yet been tearing up the pea patch. They have other players that, Raphael Lebois comes to mind, who might actually help. If they could call up someone right now, they can't, I don't believe, because of the salary cap.
They can't. Unless they send someone down. It's money in, money out, as Ken Holland is wont to say.
They could send Erne down and then and have Lavoie up.
Or Lane Peterson up, or James Hamlin. I think they'd probably call up a center if they do anything. But
yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything. And again, I'm not even advocating for that to happen myself, because Adam Erne, for some reason, was their pick. He's the guy they picked. I'm going to defer for the time being to that and see him in more than 5 games. It's not really fair to judge a player. Let's wait. I want to wait to 15, 20 games, before I would start to really harshly criticize the coach. All right.
Well, Ernie's only played 3 of the 5 games.
There you go.
And I think, what's he averaging? 9 minutes a game. Like he hasn't even played a half hour of ice time yet. So it's hard to have too high expectations in that short span. But
all we can have is a first impression, and mine isn't good. But that's what it is. It's a first impression.
Yeah, he looks slow to me, and that's a real problem. Yeah. I would rather, and of course, Gagner has looked slow to me almost since he came here. Like even when he was, putting up the points, he was never a speedster. But he himself said that after the hip surgeries, he's quoted today saying he's skating better than he has for years, and he didn't want to give it up without giving himself another shot at it. And obviously, his objective is the Brad Malone trajectory of signing an AHL deal, and then when the big team was in trouble, he got upgraded to an NHL contract and called up. And that may well happen with Sam at some point, or it could never happen. And then I also agree that his secondary or long-term objective is to land some kind of job within the game. And Jeff Jackson, who was his first agent, and who he was Jeff Jackson's first client, and he are fairly close. His dad, of course, is close as well. And his dad worked for Jeff Jackson's scouting group as a skills instructor. And so that's one possible role for Sam. And I suspect he'll be on it the day he arrives in Bakersfield, whether it's in his official title or not. He'll be mentoring younger players. And that's basically what skills instructors do as well. But I think he'll sort of be an in-house, on-team instructor. And I don't mind it. I like Sam. He's really smart. He's got a lot of hockey knowledge, and I think he's got a lot of potential as a in the hockey market in a different role once his playing days are done.
I didn't know he had said that, Gagner, that he's skating better
Yeah,
now.
I just saw it on Twitter. Yeah,
That's really encouraging, and I wish him the best. I really do. That would be fantastic if he can find a way to work his way into the AHL team and then maybe even higher than that.
find the exact quote.
Well, that's okay. I think you got the gist of it, Bruce. If you can't find it, that's okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Any other?
Here's the quote.
Okay.
This is from Ryan Holt of the Condors. Great perspective from San Gagner after practice today. Quote, not playing was never an option. I haven't felt this good skating in a long time, and I'm here to help this team.
Damn straight.
I'm just happy to be here and hope I can help the ball club.
There you go.
Nuke
Final
Lelouch, as trained by Crash Davis.
Yeah. Final thoughts or any thoughts or?
Well, I found it interesting. The Oilers said 1 to 2 weeks, and they put out their press release, and the timing of the release was 1 week and 15 minutes before puck drop of next Sunday's Heritage Classic. So I'm not ruling out McDavid returning for that game. You know he wants to play in it. 60,000 fans that are going to that game want to see him in it, and I would caution that there's got to be a caveat that you're not rushing it for that game. But if they're saying 1 to 2 weeks, well, it could be 1 week. He's been known to be a fast healer in the past. I'm defaulting to 2 weeks, which would be 5 games. And what they can't afford is another 1-3-1. Right? They're already 1-3-1. They can't do it again for 5 games. They're going to be swimming uphill for, you can even mangle your metaphors any worse than that. They'll be swimming uphill for weeks/months if they get off to a 2-6-2 start. So they're not going to win all the games, but they have to hold their own. And they basically have to do what they did in 2020 when they survived a 2-week absence from their superstar player. And the recipe is more or less the same. Draisaitl in the feature role, and everybody else grabs an oar and contributes. It's hard to swim uphill if you're not rowing hard, after all, right?
Well, you can swim uphill, like surfboarders swim uphill, right? Because they go up the wave. So you can swim up wave.
Okay.
You can, they ride up the wave and then they come down it. So there you go. All right, Bruce. Thanks for talking today.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.